You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey guys, welcome back to the Cards to the Moon podcast. My name is Clark from 5 Card Guys on Instagram, and with me, as always, is Hyung from Integrity Sports Cards and John from Trade You at Reassess. We're recording episode 41 today, and off the top, as of this recording, the MLB lockout is still ongoing, and last week, we all agreed that we weren't too concerned about the work stoppage and how that might impact baseball card values. But that was a week ago, and it looks like both sides aren't that close to a resolution, with the opening series canceled across the league. So my question to you guys is, what are your thoughts now on baseball card values if there is a significant delay in the MLB season?
I think it builds more hype, doesn't it?
Okay.
The anticipation, because once they play, values just drop, right? I guess when you hit expectations, right? But
true.
I could see a lot of stuff happening. Like, you never know with the card industry. It's usually the opposite of what you think, right? So, I could see like stuff like the minor league season is still a go. So what does that do with first chrome and prospecting? Maybe money has moved into that direction. Or it could spike an interest in vintage or other sports, right? So right. I think, but in my opinion, I don't think it's going to do too much. It's only going to build more anticipation, if anything, right? This, at least for the northern, areas where we, baseball, springtime, you look forward to the weather change and you get into that baseball mood, right? So I think with card shows too, and, going into basketball and hockey playoffs, I think it's going to be okay. Like I said, I'm always optimistic about it. I know people think it's doom and gloom. Everybody, like, there's people that they're like, oh my God, baseball season, like, it's done. But I don't think it's going to be as bad as we think. Obviously, there's going to be, some card prices that people end up holding the bag, right? But, on certain cards, if you're smart with your investments, I don't think that they're really, affected by kind of like, smaller, I guess, situation. When you look back is what I'm saying, you're going to forget about this is what I'm saying. Even 2-3 years down the road, even maybe next season, you're going to it's going to blow by, in my opinion.
Right. I can see that.
Do you guys know when, let's say they come to agreement tomorrow, do you guys know when the actual season would potentially start? Is it April?
I have no clue, man. Yeah. It sucks. It sucks. They should. Yeah. I mean, it's just brutal that they can't come to an agreement. But like for me, I'm with the players, man. Like you gotta take care of your players, and it sucks that it's at the state, especially with the studs that we have in today's game. With the Sotos, the Vladdies, the Tatis of the world, they need to show off, right? They need to play baseball, let them play, and figure it out.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Off the top, you just said that maybe this is a good thing. I'm trying to think, maybe there is some silver lining here. I don't know. I'm getting confused because I know as of right now, baseball is still fairly flat. And if anybody's spending money in the hobby right now, it's probably, I think basketball is making a lot of movement because you're looking at Ja and you're looking at this and that. And then as playoffs start to roll around, people are, still selling their football and trying to move it into basketball for the playoff hype and maybe hockey. If this delays even further and let's say baseball season starts to line up for the middle or end of any of those playoffs, it could actually be pretty amazing for baseball. From a fan perspective, it would really suck to see all the best players in the world lose like 40 games or 50 games or 60 games. Something, if it at worst, hopefully not that bad. But from a sports card industry perspective, I don't know. It could be, who knows? There could be some silver lining here. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see the anticipation build up, but I wonder if there's going to be like a cap to the value of baseball cards for stud players. And what I'm thinking is that if there's a shortened season, think about it. Vladdy hits 30 home runs in this shortened season.
Right.
Like, that's impressive in the shortened season, but we kind of will forget that, they only played 130 games or 120 games, whatever it ends up being. And, compare that to like, is he going to hit 50 homers? And then the hype builds up there, 50 home run season's pretty damn impressive, right? And that could spike values in the course of a regular season. But if, at the end of a shortened season, they're racing to hit the 30 home run mark, it's like, oh, okay, that's just 30 homers, and we kind of forget the context of, them hitting the 30 homers in the season.
That's what happened in the shortened COVID year, the 2020. But then people were starting to extrapolate like Tatis's home run, ratio, and he's like, damn, he would have hit like
90 home runs,
70 home runs, right? Yeah. So it could also build unnecessary hype, I guess. But regardless, I would say it's a buying opportunity. Everybody would agree, because that's the hobbyist's perspective, right? When the market tanks, or some cards do hit the value, you know what? Yeah. That just leaves the hobbyist the better opportunity to buy, right? So
yeah,
that's exactly what I was thinking. Like, this will be the year you buy.
Yeah, there you go.
Like, in a full regular season, he's good for 50 or 40 at least.
Right, exactly.
So that's a good strategy. But yeah, I've seen other arguments where it is sad to see players not going out to play, obviously, but guys like Trout turning 30 this year, or he's 30 this year, and a lot of these studs are in their prime years, and it's kind of a shame to see even a little bit of time wasted just negotiating, right?
Yeah, no, I could see money going into vintage at that point. Let's just say there is a lockout, right? So it's like you start moving the money out of the prospects, because I think the train of thought is, okay, these prospects are getting older. Like, let's just say like Luis Robert, right? He's approaching 26 now, and he hasn't played a full season still because of the circumstances, right? So I could see some money being moved to vintage, or even other sports, right? So it's going to be interesting though. But like, regardless, I think the strategy stays the same. It's the GOAT type players that that are rare, numbered cards. I think that's going to be your protection at the end of the day, because you're going in on it long term or semi long term for the most part, right? Because you believed in the player. The guy hasn't even played a single game, and you're gonna try flipping, right? That's the mentality we kind of have to get out of, right? The more people that do that, and create that, I guess, supply demand, the better the cards will hold, right? And that's, I think, what's happening is a lot of these flippers are trying to flip, and they realize it's not as easy to flip anymore, right? So it might be a correction in that as well. So
I can see that for sure.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think if there's clearly going to be a lot of people that were banking on the seasonality to take advantage. So I would have imagined, the internet was abuzz because the Atlanta card show happened, which was one of the bigger ones. And I'm sure all of the dealers there, because the reports were out that it was all baseball, that they were banking on this spring training, like this moment right now, for that baseball buzz to sell, and then maybe move those cards into NBA playoffs or whatever, right? But what happened was, there was a lot of baseball out there, but I don't think people were really buying that much, because the buzz for baseball is not there. So that's something to keep in mind as the MLB news, hopefully not, but if the news continues to get more grim and more, worse and worse, these people that were banking on using this money to get into NBA playoffs, they might start to get desperate. And you might start to see some of those big boy baseball cards that we've been waiting for start to sell for really cheap, come out on auctions. And, these people are like, you know what? I can't help it right now. I have to sell this because I really want to go buy that Tatum Prizm out of 199 or whatever, right? People might start to get desperate. So just something to look out for people that were looking to kind of take advantage of baseball. If the news continues to get worse, especially if they say, you know what, we're going to lose half the season or something really horrible. It could be a huge buying opportunity.
Yeah, good point. I like how both of you guys are optimistic and see the bright side of a potentially really bad situation. But hopefully there'll be a resolution soon so we can just watch some pro baseball and get on with it. All right, let's move on then to hobby headlines. This week, Card Ladder introduced a cool feature on their site where they indicate whether a sports card auction is a verified sale or not. And they do this by having a human personally review the auction. And the whole point, or one of the main points of offering this, is to point out auctions that might have been shilled. And for people who are new to the hobby and are unfamiliar with the concept of shill bidding, it's when the seller of the card has a separate account where they bid up their own auction on that account to inflate the final sale price. So back to Card Ladder, they mentioned that they believe that only 4 of the last 20 auctions of the Patrick Mahomes Prizm rookie card, PSA 10, weren't shilled. So just 4 of the last 20, which is ridiculous if it's true. Now, we hear stories all the time about potential shilled auctions, but without definitive proof, I don't want to accuse any sellers here, but I do want to generally discuss this issue. So first question, do you think shilling is still a big problem in the hobby? And if you do, what would you say are some key signs that an auction might be shilled?
1,000%, it's a huge problem. And I think, I think eBay should spend more time worrying about that,
Totally.
instead of worrying about the authentication, because, like, honestly, that's, to me, it's like I never had a problem buying raw cards. And I think, you know what I mean? It's focused kind of like that energy on, on something that's more important, like shilling, right? So
Right.
I think a key thing is obviously zero bidders. If you look at the bid history, and I'll tell you something, like I sold some cards over the weekend, and usually on the more popular cards, like the Young Guns PSA 10 or Silvers, they shill other people's items to get the comps higher, right? So to promote their own as well, not only shill their own auction items. So I had to actually block some bidders and cancel some bids on like a McDavid BGS 10 I had, for instance. They're trying to shill it up, and you could tell because there was the feedback and the bid patterns, right? So
Right.
definitely if you're bidding, I find that it only happens on more of the, I guess, the popular cards, not so much more the niche cards. You don't have to worry about every single bid, but majority of the time it is price or cards that sell every day. Right. And they try to, or higher end stuff that, there's not too many comps out there. So they'll shill it really high, and hoping that a buyer will use that comp as kind of like a way to buy in at that price. Right. I think it's pure evil. Like, and we need to find solutions. And I appreciate Card Ladder at least trying to tackle something like this. This is the way we get the industry better, right? Like I said, we talk about this all the time on the pod. It's like, these are the people that are trying to make the industry better. Hopefully, the big dogs like eBay can, use their resources to figure this out, because that shouldn't happen, especially on their platform, right? I could care less about eBay authentication on cards. Like, we're not really dealing with that issue unless you're talking about vintage raw cards, right? And at that point, people, I know people aren't even happy. It takes, a couple weeks to even get their raw card, which is an issue too, the turnaround now, right? So on top of the stuff we talked about last week. So that's, my 2 cents on kind of shilling. I think eBay needs to police it better. They need to find out a way to police it better, and it's on eBay, right?
Yeah, agreed.
I think if you look at what we talked about last week about Wander, not to say that this was actually the case, but when I see the first Wander come out, base, PSA 10, I think the entire world clearly knows that that card is going to be overpriced, right? And it sells on auction for $2,000 or $3,000 or whatever it did. It doesn't make sense. And for me, I feel like that card could be a huge candidate for shilling. Right? Because if I was somebody that was looking to scam or to shill, and let's say I sent in 20 Wander bases at PSA Express levels at $300 a pop, right? And let's say I'm crossing my fingers to get 10 or 12 PSA 10s. That first one that comes out, I go in with U3 and we start shilling it to $3,000, even though we don't, we end up paying ourselves or we don't end up paying it. That's like a baseline price. And now everyone realizes the secondary I may not get 2,000, I may not get 1,800, but I might get 1,500, I might get 1,100, I might get 900, which is still going to make me some giant profits on these next 10 that I start to list, right? So when I look at something like the Wander base PSA 10, when everyone clearly knows that's not the right price, so you think to yourself, who would bid on that? I feel like it could be something like that. Like the Mac Jones Donruss, same kind of idea, right? There's only 10 available, and it could be the one guy with all 10, and he decides with his buddies, I'm gonna try to shill this to create a floor, and then hopefully I can start to profit off of this, right? So I'm not saying that that's what happened, but I'm just trying to make sense of those kinds of situations. Like it doesn't make sense. And anybody we know with half a brain would never spend $2,000-$3,000 on a Wander based PSA 10. There's only it only has downside. There is no upside to that card. So that's like one kind of big sign for me. Like I feel like that's could be a big indicator. And I mean, let me ask you guys in terms of like auctioning. For me, you know, I'm very guilty of this. I'm totally an eBay sniper. I will bid on a card if I'm interested in the last minute. I don't bid, you know, a 9-day auction. I don't bid with 6 days left. I don't bid it to 2,000 or 3,000. I don't know if you guys do, but that always seemed very odd to me. I get if you bid so that it's on your tracker. So if somebody outbids you, you can find out. And you're aware of what's going on with that card. I get it. Just putting in one bid so that you're onto the card. But when I see people, you know, with 6 days out bidding a card up to like $9,000 or $10,000, whatever the price is, and you see it like multiple bids, like these guys like outbidding each other with like 9 days to go, that doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know. Like, do you guys? What is the strategy of bidding with 9 days to go? You know, like that much.
Yeah,
I never really understood it, but
well, yeah, I think it's a case by case example. Like, yeah, if it's like way over comps already, or it's then that might be a red flag. But like one strategy might be
to get rid of all the watchers and the riffraff.
Exactly. Yeah. Like you don't want that last minute competition like between guys like you, like snipers, you know. And then you know how you can get when there's like a few seconds left. You're like, oh, it's like real estate. I don't want to go over this much, but like you don't want to miss this opportunity, and you go over your initial budget. So you want to kind of weed as many other potential bidders out.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's one strategy. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. Sometimes I do that. You know, I'll put in a solid bid just so I'm in too, right? And other auction houses like Golden, remember, they have extended bidding, right? So other people practice that as well,
right?
You know, they're part of the extended bidding, you know, and qualify for that. Sure. So
yeah, I like
eBay's just different, right?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the most accurate bid system in my opinion, because it avoids a last minute snipe or people not necessarily ready to, you know, bid, so you get that true audience, right? So yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the answer is. I don't know how eBay would properly combat this, whether they have to, you know, everybody has to be like you got to have certified accounts, and if you bid and you happen to win, like you have to pay for it.
Something
stuff like that. I don't know. There's got to be some way to do
accounts, stricter guidelines of who can just create an account and just start bidding, right? Like, you know, it usually never happens with people with feedback. Right? It's always the people that, you know, don't really have any, you know, profile or anything, right? So that's what I'm saying. It's like they have all this resource. They could figure it out. It's like you just opened up a division for eBay authentication, which is ridiculous, right? But yeah. Sorry, there's one more thing that I find funny. It's when bids go over buy it now listings.
Right.
You know what I mean? With time left. Like I see that, but I will say,
that's
I
a
did
question
also
mark too.
sell. I also did sell a card over comp too, right? So it does sometimes happen, and it was paid for. So there might be some reasons. Maybe it's sentimental. Maybe it's a serial number.
Canadian buyer.
Exactly, Canadian buyer.
They don't want to pay the import taxes.
A rich guy who doesn't care.
Right. Or he's looking long term, right?
It's like, I don't got time to research comps.
I'll take this one. I like Soto.
It's very possible. Very possible.
A lot of reasons. But, you know, like I like the signs you guys mentioned. Like some cards are more prone to potential shill bids, like ones like you mentioned with not a lot of comps. Look at the bid history. If there are someone that has zero feedback bidding, that's probably a red flag as
Pretty
well.
good sign, yeah.
Yeah. For people who are starting on eBay with zero feedback, one suggestion is like you got to probably start buying more before you start selling to get your feedback score up. So just a piece of advice. All right. So before we close this section out, do you guys have any ideas of ways to prevent shill bidding? We kind of talked about it, but is there anything, you know, we talked about extended bidding after the initial auction end. That could be one way. Car ladders, taking a kind of a human approach to it, but you know, that's tough to scale, obviously, when you have a lot more auctions coming in. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a real answer to this, but I want to throw it to you guys.
Yeah, no, in my opinion, it's the people that have the largest selling platforms. They are the ones that have to take charge and, you know, come up with a solution for this, right? And it's only really eBay. You know, so it's something that they have to figure out, and I hope that they can, using, you know, technology, their resource. They have enormous amounts of resource. Just on my fees alone a month, you know, they should be able to create a system. Right. You know what I mean? It's so ridiculous how expensive they are. But like I always say, there's so much value in eBay, so I won't badmouth. Like they're the sales rep that you need. You know, it's like if you run a business and you don't want to actively sell, right? eBay is your sales rep, and you pay them a commission. And you know what I mean? That's the way I look at it. It sucks that, you know, they price so high, but I do know that a lot of people like complain about eBay fees, but I will say something. They get the eyes for sure.
For sure.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, there's got, you know, I don't know why you would need multiple eBay accounts, but is it, you know, maybe it's for each IP address or credit card, like you only allow the one account or something like that, right? There's got to be some way to kind of reduce, like, let's say myself, like if I had 4 different, you know, 1 main account and 3 fake accounts that I use to shill bid, like, I don't know, that kind of stuff shouldn't happen, right? So, I mean, eBay reminds me of, like, I used to work at Rogers, which is, you know, one of the big telecom companies here in Canada, back in the day. And when the iPhone first came out and Rogers kind of had exclusive rights before any of the other big companies had it, like that was a money making machine. Like you could close your eyes and you're making insane money and you were kind of spoiled. And I feel like eBay has been that. They've been the one and only engine to sell sports cards for the last little while, and they've just been killing it. And maybe they got a little bit lazy. I think, you know, they have big competition now. PWCC's in there, Golden Auctions. Who knows what Fanatics is about to do with any kind of like online purchasing auction style engine. So eBay has some serious competition coming. So I feel like they should, like Hyung said, they should be putting a lot of effort into things like this to keep their clients and people happy. Because I do know of a lot of people who have moved away from selling on eBay now. They want to do just give it to a consignment shop, or sell it locally, or only go to trade shows or whatever, right? So I'm sure it's a problem or it's a topic of discussion at eBay, but I feel like they should, you know, I'm with Hyung. They should be putting a lot of effort into stuff like this.
Yeah. I think we can all agree on that point for sure. The platforms have got to do a better job figuring it out. But I guess, you know, to prevent yourself as a buyer from participating in a Shilled auction, probably the best approach might just be to make sure you know what the comps are, so you don't go too much over the last max sale amount, and like John, bid at the last second with the price you're comfortable with, you know, to snipe and not get caught in the frenzy of a potential Shilled auction. So until something better, a better solution comes around, just do your due diligence and research your comps.
Yeah.
So I think this will be an ongoing discussion as the hobby grows for sure. And something like Shilled auctions that's a problem that has to be solved sooner than later. All right, let's move on then to our next segment. It's called Fast Five. So today's Fast Five is centered around 5 players from the NHL and NBA that are both in regular season play currently. And what I did was look at the top 5 scoring leaders in each league and chose between the two sports 5 players that you might be surprised is in the top 5 or doing way better than expected. And I want to ask you if you're buying, selling, or holding their cards. All right. So let's start with hockey. First guy on this list is Jonathan Huberdeau. He's been pretty solid year after year for the Florida Panthers, but he's number 3 on the scoring list with 75 points as of today, just 2 points behind the number 1 scoring leader, who is, to no one's real surprise, Connor McDavid. So what are you doing with Huberdeau hockey cards? Like, for context, his PSA 10 SP Authentic Future Watch Auto Rookie sold recently for just over $1,000.
Wow.
Raw cards you can get for $250.
So that had to have been pretty recent. So I was gonna say, like, his prices have increased a lot since even in January.
I think they were like $600. Not too long ago.
Like even last week, they were the one sold for, I think, under 800. But I still think the Future Watch is relatively cheap to his Young Guns, but like his Young Guns is around 500, I think. So I think in January it was below 200. So for me to see that, that gain already, it's kind of priced into the hype. I'm a sell at this point, because I don't see that he's in that, I guess, category where, 7-8 year vet, where it kind of like floats around price. You don't know where he's going to be. And it's kind of the same with other sports, right? You got, those star players that are in other sports that have that same impact. So I'm a sell for him. It's a good opportunity. I think people have made money off of him and off the hype. But I think his Future Watch Auto under 1,000 was a good buy until you told me it went over. So
right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I think so. Huberdeau is one of those guys in NHL that is really underrated for who they are. He is absolutely elite. He's had a number of years over a point per game. And in the NHL right now, the new NHL, over a point per game is a pretty elite scorer. So I think Huberdeau falls victim, kind of like my boy Cat, to the Timberwolves. He's playing in a small market. He's playing in a relatively, nobody watches the Florida Panthers outside of people in Florida. And I can't even say that Floridians may even watch the Panthers. So it's just one of those like super sleepy, quiet markets that, it's unfortunate. He's an absolute stud. So my problem with hockey, and I love hockey, you guys know that, is I'm not sure if there's enough of a giant base right now to be like investing, quote unquote, investing heavy. Like, I don't know if hockey may or may not go beyond Ovechkin, McDavid, like the big boys, kind of like F1. F1, I'm comfortable going in on Lewis Hamilton, but beyond that, very skeptical, right? So hockey is kind of this, I feel like it's on that same boat where I don't know if guys like Huberdeau, these sort of like underrated hockey players, would ever explode as a really good investment. But with that being said, strictly from a hockey perspective, like if you are, for the listeners out there who are hockey fans and hockey collectors, I think he's a buy. I think Huberdeau is very, very underrated. I think his partner in crime, Alexander Barkov, he is also a huge stud, supremely underrated. It's guys like Huberdeau, Barkov, Panarin. They're absolute superstars. Sebastian Aho. These guys are absolute studs that should be worth a lot more. Like, they should be in that bigger categories, but they just aren't for whatever reason. So it's tough to say if they will be, but I will say from a complete hockey fan, hockey collector, I would say Huberdeau's a buy.
Okay. So you're really banking on the sport of hockey to get bigger before we see some real gains from even like beyond the top 5 hockey players annually, like the main guys, McDavid, Ovechkin, those guys, right? So I have 2 more hockey guys after this. So my answer might be the same, John, based on that answer. But Huberdeau is like one of those guys that I see every year, and I'm always surprised every year. I'm like, oh, this guy's pretty good. He's
nasty.
definitely underrated, 100% underrated. And like, you know, every time I play my fantasy hockey leagues, like he's a steal every season because, you know, he doesn't get the respect that he probably should.
Right.
So for me, he's a sell as well. Like, you know, he's obviously up there with McDavid and Draisaitl in the top 3 right now. So he's probably getting that bump in price, but who knows about next season? Like, I don't know if he can maintain this top 3. You know, he'll probably be a top 10 player for years to come, but for a guy like him, he needs to be a top 3 year after year, I think, to maintain his values. Yeah, so
good point.
He's a sell for me at the price that he is at now. All right, next is former Maple Leaf and current Avalanche player Nazem Kadri with 68 points, and he's tied with a player you might have heard of, Austin Matthews of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Ooh.
He's a stud, but yeah, Kadri, you know, well, the interesting thing about his SP Authentic Future Watch Auto Rookie card is that
not many out there.
Most recent sales are all raw cards, so it probably means no one's getting them graded, right? No one maybe has that
it's
belief
not worth
that
it. Yeah.
exactly like as an investment, right? So most of the recent sales are all raw cards of his SP Future Authentic, and they're being sold for $100, right? So what about Kadri? Is that price low enough for you to invest in?
This one's tough. I was a huge Kadri fan when he when he came
Kadri
in through Toronto. So it's at that price, I think it's a buy just because I think there's a big enough market that keeps it going. I think his Young Guns was in the hundreds too. So I think his prices are extremely cheap. I don't know if it's a huge investment, but I don't mind it. I think it's a decent buy at that price. Yeah.
Okay. $100.
Yeah, I was a big fan of Kadri. So upset when he got traded. I right when it happened, I think Tyson Barrie was so overrated, and
right.
I was so mad. Anyways, that's beyond that point. Kadri is he wasn't. Nobody really thought of him. This year for Kadri is kind of like that moment for investors or people in general, fantasy hockey, whatever you want to call it. People's minds, like I said, change my opinion of you, change my mind about you, right? So he's on people's minds now because, oh shoot, he's top 5 in scoring. I didn't expect that out of Kadri. So he reminds me of like Brad Marchand. He is a two-way, got some decent skill sets, that agitator kind of player.
Right.
And Brad Marchand was the same kind of deal where he was kind of like a perennial 50-point getter. Most people are probably like, he's getting 50, 60 points because he plays with, at the time it was Krejci and Bergeron and stuff like that. He's just kind of like this pesky guy that kind of just mooches off of these studs, right? And Kadri was sort of also that kind of player, like perennial 50-point getter. So I think for him, Marchand out of nowhere one year got 95 points. And from then on, he started to 95, 100 points. He started to be over a point per game player. And all of a sudden, he's like this superstar. His Young Guns is like $1,500. And, it exploded, right? So I think Kadri is right at that point. He's going to end the season probably top 10 in scoring. Who knows? But let's see what happens next year. And if he produces again and he's above a point per game again, I think people's minds will really change. So this is the year if you want to take that risk. And it's not really a risk. Hyung kind of calls it stocking stuffer. I don't know. Right. I don't know if $100 is for some people $100 is a lot of money.
Whoa.
But for some, it's a stocking stuffer. And if you're in that case where it's not too much out of your pocket, this could be a good super buy low where you just, you throw $100, $200, go get a Young Guns PSA 10, or if you can manage to find an SP Authentic Future Watch for, I don't know how much they go for, $200, $300, $400. It could be a nice little play where you just stash away and see what happens. You'd be okay with it losing money. It's not that big of an impact on your pocket. And it's one of those cards that could triple by next year. So I'm a buy on Kadri.
Yeah, I really like that comp to Brad Marchand. And just a correction, his SP Future Authentic Rookie Auto, it's going for $100 raw. So it's a real good deal if it's, wondering what the price is. But I don't know if it's a homer bias. Like, yeah, I was a huge Kadri fan when he was with the Leafs, so it's like that's gonna factor into like, I might as well go for it, and,
Right.
and then ship it to SGC, get it quickly graded. That's just 130. You're only in for 130, 140 bucks.
Right.
And I just looked at while you're talking about Brad Marchand as a comp, like his raw SP Future authentic card is going for $400 now. So you could see if it's the same projection. You could 3-4x it if he goes that route,
for sure
in the next couple of seasons. So yeah, I think he's a good buy at that price. Third hockey guy is Johnny Gaudreau of the Calgary Flames. He has 67 points, rounding up the top 5. And he's the same story with Kadri. Plenty of raw cards sold for about the same price, just over $100. He's having a better scoring season to date than guys like Ovechkin, Stamkos, Panarin, to name a few. So do you guys like Johnny, or is he just having one of those really great seasons?
I'm a buy on him. Like, his prices are pretty low. Future Watch autos sitting at 300, and I think there's a lot of room to grow, right? So I think he's a buy. It's the same situation. I think there's opportunity to grow in that market, and he's a Calgary lifer too, so I think there is some take on that. So
okay,
yeah, Gaudreau is a buy. He is absolutely elite. Don't get it twisted. He was a point per game player a couple of seasons ago, and people might think, oh, he kind of fell off. It wasn't Gaudreau that fell off. It was Calgary during the COVID season. That Calgary was an absolute mess during those seasons.
He's a plus 40, by the way.
Yeah, and
which is insane.
All of the Calgary players weren't playing well, so it wasn't a Gaudreau thing. And now Gaudreau and Calgary is back on track, and I can see point per game seasons from now on from this kid. So Gaudreau, he's cheap. I think his Young Guns is like 200, maybe something like that. I'm not 100% sure, but I know it's a buy low, so I'm a buy on Gaudreau for sure.
Yeah, I think it's like, for me, if I'm going to take a risk, I'm going to take a risk on Kadri, who I personally like. So, like, I don't know. I like Gaudreau too, but I don't want to invest in both players with that kind of same risk level. Like, like, am I banking on both these players to do well next season? So if I got to choose one, I'm going to stick with Kadri. But yeah. And the only other thing is, like, I guess Colorado, like, they have a growing hockey market compared to any of the Canadian teams other than Toronto and Montreal. So I don't know if that's going to impact the value of Gaudreau if he stays with the Flames. Like, as a Calgary fan, you're going to love him. As a Canadian hockey fan, you might you might like him more. But I think there is something to just playing for a bigger American market, which Nazem Kadri does. So I guess he's a hold. If I have him, I'm holding and then seeing what happens in the next couple of seasons.
For me, like, his it seems like his PSA, because like the Future Watch autos, I find like they're super high in demand, and some of these players they're going for the same amount as Young Guns, right? And if you look at any of the players, that increase in value, look at the look at Austin Matthews' ratio. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I know it's not going to apply in the same amount as the McDavids and stuff, but like, something has to give there. I just think it's a good opportunity, like, True. Just in certain cards. Like, I like, for instance, I wouldn't buy his Young Guns, but I would probably buy his Future Watch auto, just because at $300, you have a chance, as long as the Young Guns keeps on going up, and
that's true.
It's a lot more, I guess, rare, right? Than his Young Guns. So I think there's just good opportunity in general in the hockey market, where there's ratios that are off, right? So I think there's just opportunity in that in general that you could kind of capitalize on.
Good point. Yeah. You changed my mind. I'm buying it.
Just his Future Watch auto.
Yeah, just his Future Watch, like number to $9.99.
Man, Future Watch auto market right now. It's such a buy. Such a buy.
Yeah, you're right. Like, how is even Austin Matthews like thousands of dollars, and then the rest are like just low hundreds. Like, most of the top 10 other guys are in the hundreds even still. So very good point. All right. The last two, we'll switch gears to the NBA. Let's start with Joel Embiid of the Philadelphia Sixers. He's always been a stud, but he's had his share of injuries and also questions about his effectiveness during the playoffs. But believe it or not, he's currently sitting at number 1, averaging 29.8 points, ahead of guys like Giannis and LeBron, who sit at number 2 and 3, respectively. So just to give you context, his 2014 Silver Prizm rookie PSA 10 isn't cheap. It's selling at around $3K, but his base Prizm PSA 10 is around $450. So do you like him as a buy, hold, or sell?
I love him as a buy, to be honest. I think his cards are criminally low. Like some of the stuff, like even his base, because they're relatively low pop in 2014 Prizm. You're talking in a couple thousand, which is nothing, right? For someone like Embiid, he's been dominating, absolutely dominating, even the last few years. And his prices, I think they range from like $250 to $350 for PSA 10 Prizm, not the Silver Prizm, but like for a base Prizm in 2014 with a pop of $12.94, I think, and there's an SP that has a pop of 300. It's the image variation. It's like 600-700 as well, or 5. It's not somewhere around there, which I think is relatively cheap compared to other guys of his caliber, right? So I'm a buy on Embiid. I like his even auto stuff. I think he has a lot of cheaper autos that are undervalued. So yeah, all around I'm a buy, and I'm long term on Embiid as well. So
okay.
I haven't been following Embiid prices. You said $450 for Prizm. I'd imagine that has gone up.
It last two sales, because there weren't much. It was $289 and $350
for the base Prizm PSA 10. Yeah,
and that's probably I'm assuming that's gone up since the Harden trade, right? It's probably even cheaper than that prior.
I don't think there was any 90-day sales prior to that, to be honest. I could be wrong though.
Okay, I like Embiid. I'm gonna say a buy on short term. It looks like he's gelling amazing with Harden. Pretty surprised about that, but regardless, it's good to see. I think short term, his card is low enough right now during this whole sort of like base crash that it's a good pickup. And I think a good time to sell, and obviously I'm no pro, but this is just my own opinion. I feel like Embiid and Harden can do some damage in the playoffs. And let's say the first round, they go off. Let's say they go off for 75 points combined, and they sweep whoever their first round opponent is. I think both of their cards are going to really blossom at that point, and it could be a great sell. Taking away the risk of NBA championship, all that stuff. Like, I'm sure that could happen, but that's a great time to sell. So I think short term, he's an absolute buy. It could be a great move. Long term, I'm going to say hold. I'm going to have some concerns. Joel Embiid, let's not forget, he's very, very injury prone. He's been healthy this year, but this is a guy that can go down with another season-ending injury at any point. So long term, I'm still a little bit worried, but short term, I think he's a great buy.
Yeah, you kind of hit it on the nose for me. Like I am concerned about his long-term injury, even short-term injury, and he's getting pounded in the paint. Like, he's a big guy, and people are attacking him, and playoffs just get rougher. So like I mentioned, just in my little spiel about Embiid, like the Sixers in the playoffs in recent years, I don't know if I trust the process, so to speak, of them getting beyond the first two rounds.
Right.
Like I was ecstatic when the Raptors got past the Sixers, but I felt like the Sixers should have won that series as well, and they didn't. I think he's a sell for me on the higher end cards. Like, it's definitely seen a run up. Like I mentioned, I think the last Silver Prizm sold for $3K. So I'm gonna get those profits. The base is cheap enough still, like you mentioned, Hyung. Like, for me, if I'm gonna just kind of have a flyer, I might buy a base PSA 10 and just hold on to that and see what happens. But yeah, for the higher end, I'm kind of looking to capture my profits and sell. All right, we'll round off this Fast Five segment with one of our former hometown Toronto Raptors favorite, DeMar DeRozan, who's killing it for the Chicago Bulls. He's fourth in scoring with 28.2 points this season. And his Topps Chrome PSA 10, which is numbered to $9.99, that rookie card sold for $2,400 recently. So he's beginning to get some love. Are you buying or selling DeRozan, who, by the way, is 32 years old and having the best season this year at his age right now?
I like DeRozan, but I'm a sell at that price. You know, I think I like him long term too, but I just don't think right now is the time to buy. I think he's definitely, set himself apart this year. He needed that change, so it's good to see him like flourish in the way he's capable of. So at around 1,500 for that Topps Chrome, I'm a buy. But you just said 2,400 was the last sale. Yeah, I think that's a time to cash out, because I think his prices can drop a bit in the off season. So I like him as a long term play. Yeah. But I'm a sell right now.
100% a sell. I think, DeMar is, we all love DeMar. He's an old Raptors player, and we have that sentiment towards him. And it's amazing to see him have ridiculous success like this. Yeah. But you're talking about Chicago Bulls being in first. They're in first, right? Chicago Bulls being first. MVP conversation, like legitimate MVP conversations. When can you see this happening again for DeMar? It's going to be very, very unlikely. No knock on him as a player. We all love him. But this is the type of high that you look for to cash out on, right? Unless you're like a hardcore DeMar DeRozan fan and you PC him like crazy, totally hold it. No problems with that. But if you're in this to make some money in the hobby, you have to absolutely sell on this, because, I don't see this happening again from, like, this is the high. Like, his card came out of the grave. It was worth like peanuts. Our buddy Will in our chat group is a monstrous DeRozan fan, and he's probably kicking himself for not going harder at DeRozan cards like 12 months ago when he was buying some DeRozan cards, right? Like, literally the card came out of the grave, and it's probably 5x, 7x, 8x, 10x. I don't know. But this is what you dream of when you buy low on certain cards. So yeah, he's a sell, and I think this is going to be I feel like this will be the peak in DeRozan cards. Short term, long term. I feel like this is it right now. So if you're not sentimental towards DeRozan and he's not a PC, yeah, you got to sell.
Yeah. Yeah, I won't add too much to that. Yeah, don't FOMO on DeRozan. Sell, capture as much profit as you can right now. Mm-hmm. But like that being said, there are some cards where there might be opportunities. Not the Topps Chrome, not the ones that everyone goes for. The same thing with Steph Curry. Like, I love the Bowman 48 card because it's a lot cheaper than the Topps Chrome, right? DeMar DeRozan, also has a Bowman 48 rookie, which is a lot more affordable than the Topps Chrome. So that might be something I might go after. But yeah, not the higher end Topps Chrome number to $9.99 or
Topps Paper Gold. I don't know how much those go for, but that could be a good one.
So that's probably 30 or 40% of the Topps Chrome value. So yeah, and like I said, he's 32. Like, not a lot of players peak at like their older age. And, can he do it again when he's 33, 34? Like, age becomes a factor too. So, unless you're LeBron, right? So, and I don't think DeMar's in that tier. So yeah, he's a sell. All right. That wraps up our Fast Five. Then we'll just end off this episode with our regular weekly segment, Pick One. All right, so this week is the regular edition, I believe. Yeah, regular edition. So we're going to pit just two regular cards or sets against one another, and then we'll debate which one we'd rather invest in. All right. Hyung, do you want to lead off?
Let's do it. We're going with 2018 Silver Trae Young Prizm. All right, PSA 10. $780 was the last sale, okay? And there's a reason I'm bringing this up. Versus Ja Morant Silver PSA 10, which sold for $19.95. Okay.
Yikes. Yeah.
But here's the kicker. There's twice as many Trae Youngs as Ja Morant. So John, remember we talked about this in 2019, the short printed of silver. Yep. Is that true? Maybe. So essentially, the population on the Trae Silver is 2,100 plus. Okay, so it's not bad. But the Ja Morant Silver is at 1,280. So almost, I'd say half, just a little over half, right? So it's almost doubled the price though. Who are you guys picking? Especially come playoff time, Memphis is looking really good. Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks, I don't know. They're sitting in 10th place right now. So what is the better buy? I wanted to throw that out there because I knew that you guys would be like, oh, Trae Young is the buy. But given all the circumstances now that I laid it out, what do you guys think?
Let's hear it, Johnny.
I saw this and it's no question it's the Trae Silver Prizm. Like it's a clear-cut favorite. I'm gonna pick Ja.
Oh wow!
I'm going. I changed my mind. I changed my mind right now, and normal circumstance. Common sense, like we all said, don't buy into the FOMO. Ja's like on a tear right now. He just had that montage of like highlights within one game ridiculousness. Clearly, it's a high. Clearly, it's a sell moment for Ja. But just thinking about this, a little further.
But I'm buying.
But because you gotta I'm just trying to think the next 6 months, right? If Trae doesn't make the playoffs, his card is not going from 780 to 2,000. It's not gonna move. It's still a buy. It's still a great buying opportunity, but it's not gonna move. Ja, on the other hand, it's like Ja, Steph Curry during the All-Star game, and DeMar DeRozan right now. Like those three guys are like lifting basketball cards out of the grave into the limelight again. Basketball cards are getting that buzz it deserves. And I think Ja, as he goes towards the playoffs, and if he starts to continue to do what he's doing right now, his Silver Prizm, even though it's a high right now, it could go to $3,000. So
easily. I've seen it before.
Yeah, so that's why it sounds so silly to buy on a high, but I think his card is the one that you can make a profit on in the short run. So I am going to pick Ja Morant Silver.
Wow. Never would have imagined
I know.
Johnny would conclude this.
The don't buy the FOMO. I'm completely going against everything that I stand for.
Nice.
Unbelievable. Okay.
Yeah.
Do I got to be the only reasonable person in this podcast? I'm going for Trae. And yeah, I hear you guys though. Like I actually bought a PSA 10 for 800 recently, and it's gone down to 750. And
it's unreal.
I'm worried. Like I'm like, what the hell is going on? This guy's Trae, and yeah, Atlanta Hawks, they're a mess of a team, and and Memphis Grizzlies on the other hand are exciting to watch, especially with that. Not just Ja, but that core of young players. They're just fun to watch. So that's always a plus, having a lot of people just watching their games, even if you're not a Memphis Grizzlies fan, just watching their highlights. So, but man, at 2,000, like that's, I think there's some risk at that level. Like to tell you the truth, Ja's been injured. Sure. Like he plays 100%, 110%. Like he goes full on.
Yeah.
And he plays in a way that's like, you've seen his highlight dunk. Like one of these days, he's just gonna like fall backwards.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah. So like, I think there's like at least another injury or two over the course of next season where maybe I could pick up his Silver Prizm for a slight discount. So I'm not buying now where, like you said, John, it's at an all-time high. Like the hype is real. We're heading into the playoffs. They're number 3 seed. They might overtake Golden State. Like the narrative is there for it to go even higher. But man, that's your definition of FOMO. Like going right into it. So
totally falling for it.
And I hear about the pop count too. That's a good wrench to put in there. Like I'm starting to really believe that what was the year?
2019.
2019
was printed less
Silver
in ratio to the base. Yeah.
A lot lower than the previous year. So I'm beginning to really believe that. So that's something I'm keeping an eye on still. But yeah, if you're comparing Trae Young at the current price with Jamara, I'm going with Trae. I'm going to buy another Trae, doubling down.
Yeah, you know what? It's crazy because I
a great
imagine that
question.
you guys both would pick Trae, and I'm with John. Like, I normally would buy Trae. Absolutely, he's a buy. But I think
100%. It's such a buy low.
at under 2K, just because Memphis is where they're at, and just because the pop count, I'm telling you, the pop count's going to play a huge factor in the silver because normally, like if you look at Luka Silvers, Trae Silvers, they're about the same. And then Zion and Ja Silvers are down a bit. I think Zion is more than Trae, or sorry, than Ja. But the 2019, I think, is just so short printed. And then the marriage of Memphis going deep into the playoffs, like I could see Ja's prices going insane. So for me, obviously the smarter play is the Trae Young, but if you're enticed to kind of make a gamble in terms of a flip, I don't think it's a bad play under 2,000. It starts getting over that. I think now the price is getting a little baked. I've seen that card go as high as I think 3,500 or maybe even 4K at one point.
Right.
So it does have legs, that card, and because there's half the population of a Trae Young, I don't see a lot of movement in the Trae Young unless somebody like Clark buys about 500 Trae Young silvers that lowers that pop down, you know? So there's just way too much supply and not enough demand at that point to sustain that price. So as crazy as this is, I'm going to go Ja silver right now. What is this? What day is it today? Just because we're a week late. March 2nd. As of March 2nd, I would buy Ja under 2K, yeah.
Yeah. And again, this is like totally a like for Hyung and I, it's like of these two cards, which one could make you money in the next 3 months? It's a complete short-term flip.
Right. Yeah.
If we're talking what would you buy for the next 12 months? Yeah, the Trae Silver at under 800 bucks. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
That's a buy.
But yeah, it's I think the silver to make
side
money.
note, I picked up a Trae Red Ice.
Nice.
For $750, and I was just like, man, like these red ices are so amazing.
Nice.
Like,
Yeah.
it's
And the
such
jersey
a
match
beautiful
and
card.
everything?
Yeah, and I'm like, it's selling for the same price as silvers, which the red ice is, I think, less pop,
less
right?
print.
So
Yeah, way less.
yeah, so for me, the market is just insane. Trae market is insane. How cheap he is.
It's hobby logic.
Hobby Logic, yeah. I'm still buying Trae. I still like buying Trae. I like his prices, so I'm a buy at Trae. So. Even
Cool.
not in this instance. So.
No, that's a good one. That's a good one. All right,
Nice.
Johnny, you're up.
Yeah, I'm feeling a little ashamed to do my 1v1 after that like fire conversation of Hyung's. Mine's gonna be quite boring. But I'm gonna try to cater to those in the very, very low range, spending smaller dollars, because we always talk about $100,000, $500,000 slabs, and maybe that's not in the price range of a lot of people that are listening. So
Sure.
I'm switching gears so we all know 2020 Topps Chrome and Topps for baseball is sort of rounding out to be the junk slab era. Like everyone and their moms submitted those cards to be graded. They're all coming back right now. And you can, these slabs, man, some of them PSA 10s you can be buying for like $5. So with, PSA 10 pop counts in like the 5 figures, like ridiculousness. So I'm going to say my 1v1 is of this junk slab era, who's the better bounce back candidate? Strictly investment. If you're going in on this for money, Kyle Lewis or Gavin Lux.
Man. Oh man.
Because you can get PSA 10 bases for honestly you could pick them up for free.
I didn't get the Gavin Lux hype. I honestly didn't get it. Like I don't know why people were on him in the first place. I could see Kyle Lewis a bit. Yeah. Like the run he had in his rookie year was pretty outstanding until like
he is older though. He's tanking. Kind of like
he's a little older. I think he's 26 versus 23. But man, that is the modern junk era.
It is.
How many PSA 10s are there? I know Kyle Lewis is going for like -$5.
Yeah.
So, but I would say for me, Kyle Lewis. I just think he could still put it together and put up an all-star season. Especially, it's going to be exciting to see that Seattle team actually with like Julio Rodriguez as well, coming up this year. So, yeah, I'm going to say Kyle Lewis is the pick on my side. I don't like this at all, though. I don't like this 1v1.
I'm definitely not speaking to Hyung on this question. He's throwing those slabs away right now.
Well, I was just looking at the Bowman Chrome base PSA 10s of both players. So Kyle Lewis is going for about $20 last sale, just under 20, and Gavin Lux is about 40. So 2x Kyle Lewis's
PSA 10
base Bowman Chrome PSA 10, yeah. So I'm going with Gavin Lux. Like, I don't know much about Gavin Lux, and I like drafted him in one of my fantasy baseball teams. He did nothing for me that year. It was a real bust. But it doesn't seem like the Dodgers are quitting on him, especially with Corey Seager's gone. So there's more opportunity for Lux to play in the infield, I think. And, the Dodgers are going to be a killer team again this season, right? So I think if everything breaks right and he's, finally lives up to his potential, I think I'm going to give him one more year, one chance to really show what he's worth. And then I think, if everything breaks right, I think Lux has the higher ceiling, whereas Kyle Lewis, like, I don't know. I always thought his rookie season when he won Rookie of the Year was a kind of a fluke, and then next year, I feel like I was proven right. And then, and he was injured, right? So that accounts for some of it. And then in Seattle, they have a good core with Rodriguez coming up and Kelenic, I still believe in, actually. Right. But I think Kyle Lewis he's number 3 on the top 3 guys I want to see on Seattle. So, I think his ceiling is very limited, in my opinion. So I'm going to go with Gavin Lux, who I feel like has the higher potential.
Right. Kyle Lewis is obviously the safer pick. He's established a lot more in this short period of time. He is also older though, and I think the general perception of him is he sort of is what he is. We kind of seen what he is. His ceiling is not necessarily super high, but he's a very, very solid contributor, solid player. And I think people would naturally think, you know what, he's due for a bounce back in his investment prices because he's been injured all this time. He's never had a chance to kind of follow up on that Rookie of the Year season, right? So it feels like Kyle Lewis is the easy one, but I think, when you're just going to take a complete gamble on this like supremely buy low ridiculousness, when you feel the heartbeat of like a lot of these forums and Blowout and Facebook, there's still some people that are asking for Gavin Lux. And I think that shows that no matter how crappy he's been, he's 23 and people are holding out hope. Like Hyung said, he doesn't know what he sees in him. Like, I don't know, get the hype. But there's clearly people out there who still kind of believe in the hype. Like, he's got a little bit of that sparkle in people's eyes, right? So I think Gavin Lux is the type of pick that you just throw some money at if you're in this space to kind of go low on these picks. And he's the kind of guy that could 2x or 3x over a guy like Kyle Lewis, where people already kind of know that, oh, he is what he is, right? So I'm going to go Gavin Lux, I think.
Yeah.
I personally, I don't like him at all. I think Kyle Lewis is definitely the way better baseball player, but I think Gavin Lux just has that potential to like multiply your money.
Yeah.
Gavin Lux.
Yeah, I like this one though. Got me thinking, and you guys will see Gavin Lux this season. He's gonna have a great season. All right. So my 1v1 to close off this show is an actual decision that I'm trying to make in real life, and I'm hoping to make this decision before this episode airs, so no one snipes me out there hearing what is coming up on auction. But on one side, I have Luka Doncic. I'm going back to Luka Doncic because I really want to pick up one of his cards before his card values bounce, which I feel like it's going to do any day now. But Luka Doncic, rookie, Panini Prizm, Red Prizm, numbered to 299, PSA 9 though. Last sold for about $2,500. Versus Luka Doncic's Silver Prizm, PSA 10, which sold for $3,000, so $500 more. So what are you going with? The numbered to 299 Red Prizm, but a PSA 9, or the classic Silver Prizm PSA 10 going around 3,000 right now.
I'm interested to hear what Hyung is about to say.
You know me. Like this one's a little different just because it's Luka and it's the Prizm. So it's like you got to go PSA 9 red, like numbered in this case, in my opinion. I just think there's just too many silver Prizms compared to reds, right? And this is the clear case of buy the card versus the grade, right? I think long term, especially you're in for it long term. I know it. You're not the flipper type that sees every opportunity and watches daily prices, right? So I think it's going to be a lot harder for you to grab another PSA 9 at 2,500, right? And it'll just be harder to buy. You'll always find a Luka Silver available at probably, maybe not at that price. Maybe it'll dip a little bit. I don't think the red Prizms can dip as much because the people that are buying these up are like guys like yourself, right? So I don't think they'll be available, and eventually the supply will run. But Luka Doncic, obviously silvers, will be day traded, daily. So I think the better buy in this case is the red Prizm, number 299. I buy the card, not the grade. Yeah.
Okay.
Man, I was really interested to hear Hyung because I'm struggling with this one. I don't clearly the red Prizm at 299 print run, it makes all the sense in the world. I do not like PSA 9s, but I certainly could make an exception here. I go back and forth. The argument for the silver is liquidity and what your end game is here, right? If you feel in the long run like you will be so happy with that PSA 9 Prizm red, like that's going to be a part of your like long-term collection, it makes sense. But if that's not the end goal, I don't know, the silver Prizm 10, the way it moves, if Luka pops off like crazy, and I don't think Luka's there yet. Like we all are I'm hoping it continues to stay low because I really want to also get in on some Luka. But I don't think he's there yet, like a LeBron, where the 299s, the reds, and the numbers are like just on a different stratosphere,
right.
Like unattainable. Like it's not there yet, and I still think you have a number of years before that, so it's still going to be attainable. So I think the silver, I don't know what I'm saying. I'm still thinking about it. Okay, you know what? I think I'm gonna pick by a hair. I'm gonna say the silver Prizm, going along what I've been saying.
Yeah.
I feel like your end goal will not be this PSA 10 red Prizm, and if Luka pops off and his prices go wild, it's that silver Prizm that you're gonna cash out on to be able to use that money to later on get into a bigger, like a really, really nice card that you're gonna be like, yes, this is the Luka card that I have dreamed of. PSA 10, Prizm numbered something, right? So I think the silver Prizm is the one to get into that space later on and trade up or whatever. It's just such a liquid, awesome card that's the card for your end goal. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel like the PSA 9 red Prizm is the actual end goal, but it makes all the sense in the world long term. Number to 299. I'm right there, but I'm gonna 51 to 49. I'm picking the silver Prizm. Okay, I said it.
You guys didn't help me out at all. I was hoping that would be unanimous. I'm like, you know what? I'm going with the boys. I'm going whatever the boys decide. You guys,
you're the deciding factor, I guess.
Zero help whatsoever.
Sorry, man.
But Johnny, it's so funny. All those reasons, like that's the debate that's going in my head too. And then also what Hyung's saying about the PSA 9 red, that's going in my head too. I'm like, it makes all the sense in the world for me to pick up this PSA 9, 298. It looks beautiful. It's a solid red Prizm.
Right.
But it's a Hobby Logic thing, right? It's again, like, and I'm still fighting Hobby Logic. Like there's certain things that still don't make sense to me, but I'm being more acceptive of what the market thinks in general. And the liquidity of silver Prizms is like, I've accepted it now. It's just easier to sell. And you're right. I did bid. There was one PSA 9 just last week, same card, and that was on auction, and I bid $24.95. And my thinking is like, if I could get under $2,500, I'm happy with that price. Right. it sold for $2,500. Like it sold for $5 less. So I'm like, should I have done 2501? And then would I be happy with that? So, whenever you lose an auction that close, you're kind of bummed out. But at the same time, I think in the back of my head, I'm still holding out for the Silver Prizm, right? And I see it creeping back up to the 3K level. It was 26, 27K at its lowest. And, of course, I was hoping to go down to 2,500, which never happened. And Luka's playing like he's Luka again, heading into the playoffs. So,
right.
So yeah, I'm same 51-49 leaning towards Silver Prizm. Liquidity, and yeah, just to trade up. I think it would have been different if it was autographed. Even if it wasn't serial numbered, if it was a PSA 9 auto, I probably would have gone the other way. But yeah, non-auto.
Yeah.
But of an iconic set. So the Prizm. Yeah, Silver Prizm. And then, I've seen it. The other deciding factor, one more thing was that, I've seen the Silver Prizm sell for almost 10K, the PSA 10. So there's a lot of room to still grow back to that amount, I think, if basketball cards in general make a good comeback. So, yeah, so we'll see.
Yeah, the Silver Prizm, I was just going to add to that. The Silver Prizm is like the iconic gold standard card for Luka. And, you're even in our collections to enjoy a PSA 10 silver, you're going to damn sure you're going to enjoy that card just as much, maybe probably more than that PSA 9, if we're being honest. I'm quite fickle, so I'll certainly enjoy the PSA 10 more. But at some point, like all of us, you'll be okay or get kind of bored and be completely okay with letting it go. And at that point, that's when the Silver Prizm is going to shine, because you're going to be able to let it go quickly, right? So
you're absolutely right, yeah. And it happened to me. Like I had you guys know I had the LeBron James Topps Pristine PSA 9 card numbered to 999.
Oh yeah.
So I've already invested in a PSA 9 numbered, and then I sold it. Like I made like $100 profit, not much, but I've seen it go down. And while I was holding this PSA 9 Topps Pristine LeBron rookie numbered to 999, I'm like, I would trade it for a PSA 10 Topps Chrome base or like something, that's like just a higher pop. And, so I feel like it's kind of a similar case here with this 1v1. But yeah, we'll see. I'll try to, before this episode airs, I'm going to try to pick one up. So
that should be a good, it would be a good podcast question.
Oh
yeah,
totally.
Yeah, let's put it out. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, I want to know what everybody thinks, because I think this is a lot. It's more common than you think, Clark. I think a lot of people are thinking the exact same thing, right? Because it's like, do you go for the numbered? And I think a lot of people in general, the rare stuff. I think that's what people tend to flock. But I think over the last few episodes or last 20 episodes, we've been talking about liquidity a lot. So I think it's starting to become more relevant to people. So
True. Yeah, we'll put that poll out for sure when this episode airs and see. I feel like it's going to be close. I think it's going to be 50-50 almost probably amongst our listeners, but we'll see. All right, let's wrap up there. Another great episode. Thanks for joining us on this episode number 41. If you haven't already, please subscribe to us. And if you enjoyed the episode, we appreciate you giving us 5 stars wherever you listen to your podcast. We publish every Tuesday. And if you do subscribe and follow us, you'll get a notification of whenever we drop a new episode. So thanks again, guys. We'll see you next week. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Reassess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.